I mean, I quit. You guys don't need me for an intro. That was the best intro we've ever had on Trick on Tuesday. That was so good. Guys, if you can't tell, today's a little different. We are talking about something I know a lot of you guys are really into. We're talking about Greek mythology.
Gina, we're talking about Greek mythology. That's exactly right. We are joined today by the authors of a new book, brand new book. Is it safe to say new book?
Yeah.
Thank you guys for joining us so much. We're joined by Kenny and Jillian. If they look similar, it's because they're father and daughter. Thank you guys for joining the show. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
It's
Gina,
great to be here.
Gina, we lost you for just a second, but you were about to say something really insightful, I think.
Well, I don't know where I cut off, but I'll just say we've got more. We're giving away a book every 5 minutes today. You're gonna love this book, Greeking Out. And there's even more to the whole, I guess, like Greeking Out universe we're going to talk about. There's podcasts, there's tools for educators. Yeah. We're going to get into that. But there's something really special about this book that I want to call out. One of many things. But this book debuted on the New York Times bestseller list. Isn't that wild, Aaron?
Yes, this is what I want to do when I grow up, write books like this. So congratulations, that's really awesome. How would you describe this, guys? It's a fiction book, but there's nonfiction content. Either one of you, who wants to take it first? How would you describe this book?
I'll go first. I would describe it as it started from the podcast. So it is basically, I believe the subtitle is Epic Retellings of Classic Greek Myths. And the idea is that we took these classic Greek myths that everybody, well, not everybody, but many people know and are familiar with, and broke them down for a family audience or for families who can read them together. The exciting thing is that these are stories and characters that you may know in different iterations, everything from, Percy Jackson to the Disney Hercules movie. But we go back to the original Greek myths themselves, the Homer, the Hesiod, the Edith Hamilton, and actually turn them into content that kids and families can experience together. In the book, we have some amazing illustrations that just bring it home.
Everyone watching, just a reminder, be sure to comment along with today's show. That is how you are entering to win a book. We're going to give away our first book here in about 4 minutes. So keep those comments coming. Keep your questions coming. Again, we've got the authors, Jillian and Kenny, on with us. So if you guys have questions about Greek mythology, these books specifically, this is your time to ask. Also, just want to call out that the Golden Touch is an excerpt from the book that we have run in October's issue of Scout Life. You can check that out in print, or you can check that out in the app for free. So be sure to read that. Jillian, question for you. You mentioned that, well, your dad mentioned that this started as a podcast. Take us back. Like, were you guys just doing a podcast? What was happening?
So it is a very long, roundabout story, but so there was a book series called Zeus the Mighty, and that was also published by National Geographic Kids. And Zeus the Mighty is about, it takes place in a pet store, and it's about a bunch of animals there. And they think that they are Greek gods on Mount Olympus. And the reason that these animals think that is because the pet store, the owner, is listening to a podcast that's actually called Greeking Out. And so as a way to sort of promote this book and try to reach a new audience, they asked us to create a podcast called Greeking Out that retold all these Greek myths. And so that's kind of what we did. We took that idea and ran with it. And then it kind of took on a life of its own. The podcast got pretty popular. We created our own little characters like the Oracle of Wi-Fi and things like that. And then the podcast became so well loved and well received that they turned that into a book. So it is a book based on a podcast based on a book. If I got that right, Kenny.
Yeah.
Okay.
What a cool, yes. Started off as a fictional podcast, became
Right.
a real podcast,
Right.
then became a book.
Right.
Well,
Yes.
by the way, and as a reminder, as Gina said, we are giving away copies of this book every 5 minutes, which is really, really cool. Not sure if we've done that before, Gina. That's exciting. All you have to do to win a chance to win a copy of this book is to comment. And we've got quite a few folks commenting, talking about how they like Greek mythology. I like Greek mythology too. I didn't tell you guys that before we went on the air, but there's a reason why these Greek myths grab a hold of you, right? I was so into this as a kid. My son was into it as well. Kenny, what do you think? What is it about these stories there's a reason why they've lasted so long and endured. And there's books and there's movies and there's fictional podcasts and there's real podcasts and there's now the book Greeking Out. What is it about these stories, Kenny, that gives them that kind of life?
Well, these are really the sort of OG archetypes for a lot of the superheroes and characters that kids can the kids are sort of inundated with now. You know what I mean? Jillian's always fond to point out that before there was Wonder Woman, there was Athena and things like that. I mean, these stories and these characters have been around forever, but they are sort of the OG Avengers. They are sort of the OG, Hades is like the OG Darth Vader. I mean, initially, these characters and these stories came first, but they also come from a place of discovery and of wonder, where the people who are telling the stories, and that's the cool thing about these stories, before they were ever written, they were told and handed down for generation to generation to generation. So they've been around for centuries, thousands and thousands of years, really. And I think people really gravitate towards the authenticity of these characters. I mean, there are still things about our life now that were true then, that are true now. We're all still sort of trying to find our way.
I love that. You guys have sparked so many questions for me, but before I get my next question in, I think we should give a book away.
Yes.
What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Okay. I have used our magic comment selector to draw a name, and I'm very excited about this one. This book is going out to Peter Zuliker. Peter Zuliker.
Good job, Peter. That's how we do it.
Yes, we've got a high
Great
energy
book.
team here to cheer you on today. This is very exciting.
What does Peter need to do, Gina? Does he need to watch his inbox, I think, right?
Yeah, well, first of all, please stay tuned in for the rest of today's show.
Yes, don't leave, Peter.
Don't leave. Yes. Send this video out to 2 million of your friends. No,
Yeah,
just
tag
kidding.
a friend. There you go. Yeah.
Just keep your eyes on your inbox. We're going to reach out to you for your address so we can ship the book your way. How cool. I hope you can read it to your Cub Scout pack or something. We also found out right before the show that Kenny was actually a Cub Scout himself. So that's pretty cool.
Yep.
Everybody out there is giving you the equivalent round of applause that you just gave. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
My follow-up question is, how did you guys as a father-daughter duo get involved in this? Like, what were you doing beforehand?
Now, who should answer this question? This is interesting. Let's see
It's
who
such
wants to
like
go
a
and take
dream.
this one.
For me, that's
You gotta answer it.
Yeah.
Well, it started a long time ago. The podcast started, as Jillian explained, it started because we were creating the podcast. One of my other incarnations is I host a show on Kids Place Live on Sirius XM. And so I was working with Nat Geo in that capacity. And that's sort of how we got into working with them on the Weird But True radio show. That's how we got into the idea for Greeking Out. But when I made this podcast, we realized as we were going along, we just needed more help. We could not possibly continue this podcast to go. And I needed another writer. Fortunately, the best writer I know happens to be my daughter. So I kind of begged her to do it. And I have to give credit where credit is due. The book is something that she has been nagging me to write a book. She has been bothering me about this since she was like 8. So we finally got it.
Yes. I like to say, I bugged him since I was a little kid. And the only reason he did it was when I did it with him. So it's actually good because I was able to write, because Kenny also hosts the podcast. He's like the narrator. So I'm very familiar with his voice, having heard it my entire life. So I was really able to capture his tone and everything in a way that not many people have the honor and privilege of doing. So, but yeah, it's been so fun to work together. We've had a really, really good time.
That's really awesome. As we said, we are here with the father and daughter team. They are our writers. They are podcasters. Kenny and Jillian. Jillian, what do you prefer then? Are you more of the podcast type? Are you the writer type? Which aspect of this do you prefer?
Yes, I like being behind the scenes and writing, and not being on camera or seen. But the more that I do this, we've done a couple like live shows and things where I've kind of filled in as the oracle and sort of read some lines, and that's been really fun. So it is great, but I definitely like the behind the scenes. And yeah, writing books has always been my dream. So it's been so fun to get to do this. It's been really, really cool. We have a lot of other fun ideas in the works. So we're hoping this is just the start of many books to come.
Okay, fun ideas in the works, Gina. We may be getting a tease of some future action. That is very, very cool. As a reminder, we've got more books to give away. Guys, all you have to do is comment for a chance to win.
Yes, keep those comments coming. We've got a lot of good comments. And Gentle says, I love talking about, they love talking about mythology in our house. I bet that is a common sentiment amongst our Cub Scout and Scouts BSA families. Yes. Also, Mark's got a very nuanced take that might spark some conversation here amongst you experts. Yeah. He doesn't really buy that Hades is any more evil than any of the other gods.
It's a hot Greek mythology opinion from Mark.
That's a hot take and one that I support, Mark, 100%.
Okay.
Hades is actually one of the more fair and reasonable gods. I mean, all of the gods, this is what's cool about the Greek gods, right, Jill? I mean, they were fallible. They weren't, when we all sit around and when if you go to church or whatever, and you pray to God, we want there to be a benevolent, beautiful, safe, God that we can pray to, that's all-knowing, all-loving, and that's great for faith purposes. But from a storytelling purposes, the Greeks were a lot more down to earth than that. Their gods were as fallible as any human being, maybe more so. I mean, Hades is often, vilified as the bad guy, but the truth is Zeus, the king of the gods, was kind of a jerk in a lot of ways. Yeah. That's my
Hades over Zeus any day of the week for sure.
Wow.
So I think he gets a bad rep. There's actually really not that many stories about Hades. Yeah. Really, I mean, he's in the underworld. I think that's why he gets the bad rep of being associated with the darkness and
there is that whole thing. Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, Zeus, he causes some trouble. He's doing some questionable things. So I think Hades is a pretty cool guy too. I appreciate it.
All the Greek gods are like that. All the Greek gods, you root for them in some ways. You admire their good qualities, but they all make mistakes. They are all fallible. And because they are immortal deities, when they make a mistake or have bad judgment, sometimes humans suffered for that in the Greek mythology.
Yeah, it's like they're relatable because they have human qualities, but the stakes are higher, exactly. I guess.
Yeah.
So along that kind of more, we want to get your personal take on a couple of questions. What is there a cool Greek fact most people don't know? I feel like you guys both are probably going to have great input on that. So maybe we start with Jillian.
Oh, yes, there is. Can I recall it? That is
well, but remember you said
this is an easy one. Okay. I got so a lot of people think that the character Hercules is pronounced that way, Hercules, but his name is actually Heracles, which translates to of Hera. So, and the reason that he has gone mad, so to speak, and has to do all his 12 labors is because Hera kind of drives him insane. And so the term Hercules, that's the Roman translation, and that's the more popular way everyone pronounces it. But if you're trying to be true to the Greeks, you got to call him Heracles, and we have a whole bit about that in the show that we bring up a lot. But Heracles is his name.
I had no idea.
Yeah. And another fun fact going off that is Heracles was never associated with Pegasus. That was not true. Was that your fact? Sorry.
That was my fact. Yeah. Everybody thinks Heracles rode Pegasus, but no, they never encountered each other. Not in the original Greek myths. I mean, Disney can kind of do what they want in their movies, but in the actual Greek myth, they didn't encounter each other.
That is the kind of fact, you guys, if you're watching this, you're a parent right now, save it for your kid because they are going to want to repeat it at school tomorrow. So definitely share that. And Maria says she wishes her Scout was home right now to see this. He loves Greek mythology so much that he started to teach himself Greek. Okay, very cool.
That's awesome.
Very cool. And the good news is this video will be here after today's show is live. This would be a great thing for now that you're viewing it for you to show your kids. You can even show your pack if you want to. This video will live on. You can tag people in the comments. I need to stop talking because you guys know what time it is.
Ooh, is it giveaway time?
Yes, it's already time for another book. Book giveaway. And the way people entered to win this book was just by commenting along with the show. We have used our super fancy random comment picker. And book number 2 is going to Katie Fisher.
Good job, Katie.
Congrats.
That's how you do it, Katie. Thank you for watching, Katie. We appreciate that very much. We have one more book to give away. Stay tuned. And again, comment for a chance to win. You guys just wowed us with some kind of amazing unknown facts. I had no idea it was Heracule. How do you say it? Heracles. I had no idea. You've talked about a few different characters. Kenny, I'm curious, do you have a favorite character, a singular favorite character that you can share with us?
Yes, I'm gonna go deep on this one. I'm gonna go random on this one. There's two. I sort of have two. It's sort of a tie. There's a centaur named Chiron, who is the teacher to a lot of the Greek heroes, most of the main Greek heroes that you know of, Jason and Achilles and Heracles. He was like the coach. He taught them how to do it. If you saw the Disney movie Hercules, the Philoctetes, the goat man, it was actually a centaur who actually trained all of these heroes. So he was one of my favorites because I love the idea that we celebrate teachers, and he was just the OG teacher. But I think I'm going to go with Amphitryon as my personal favorite, because Amphitryon was the mortal stepfather of Heracles. He had, all of a sudden, his wife gave birth to twins, and he had this amazing demigod, phenomenally talented child. And if there's one thing I know, he says, looking at his co-author, it's having an amazing, phenomenally talented child. So,
thank you, Dad.
that's the sappy part of the show.
That's so cute. I have to admit that I always thought that Phil in Hercules, the Disney movie, was just Mickey from Rocky.
Yeah, basically, yeah. That's basically it, right?
Okay.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all.
Good job, Gina.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice.
Jillian, what about you? Do you have a favorite character?
I like Cersei. I like a good sorceress. You know, she's got an interesting story there, and she turns men into pigs, which is, you know, can't go wrong with that.
Go wrong with that. Absolutely.
Not far to go sometimes.
Yeah. I also want to point out to everybody real quick that not only is there a book, there is also a discussion guide that can be used by teachers, scout leaders, parents. Very convenient, very cool. I'm just browsing through it on my computer right now. It's got information about both of our authors. It's got some discussion questions that you can ask kids who have read the book about the characters, how they view themselves, their motivations, the choices they make, things like that. And also some activities, some student exercises, of activities they can do together. Now, were you guys involved in this guide itself?
A little bit, in that in every chapter of the book, Jillian did a lot of this. She did a great job of putting a takeaway at the end of every story. Basically, kind of what we learned, what you can glean from this. And that's after every chapter and every story in this book, which really, there's like sort of a takeaway box at the end. And it really helps, I think, spark discussion and get you to think about what the characters did. Because again, as we've said, not everybody, even the heroes, make bad choices in the true depiction of these myths, or the original depiction of these myths. So, you know, we don't really shy away from that. We're not going to change things too much. Obviously, we want to, you know, don't want to get too graphic in some of the myths that are graphic, but we want to be true to the spirit of it. And I think that's important. But that's really the great thing about working with National Geographic Kids, is that they find a way to make quality content. It's great, compelling storytelling in and of itself, on its own. It's fun, but they find a way to do that extra thing. I mean, even from just like, I don't know why I thought this was going to be a paperback book, but the fact that it's a hardback book and the illustrations are so amazing. This is the kind of book that my kids can and probably will throw across the room accidentally, or maybe at each other. Not that they do that, but you know, it could happen. So I think you have a real value proposition when it comes to Nat Geo Kids, in terms of saying this is a thing that can be more than just a book. It can be an experience. And I think that's also coming from the extension of it being a podcast, which is also an experience in and of itself.
Mm-hmm. And we also have these interstitial pages throughout the book. We have like Eat Like the Greeks, Yeah, there you go. We have the sports and the Olympics, that kind of thing. So there is a whole, famous Greek expressions, nonfiction component that we try really hard to put in there so that it's not just the myths, but you also have these little, educational takeaways. But the guide that they created is really great because it was designed for teachers to actually use in the classroom. So it takes it even a step further and can be like an educational tool for teachers or scout leaders or parents, whoever wants to use it. So that's a really great bonus to have, and it's free. So
yes, everyone, that link to check out the educator's guide is at the bottom of your screen right now. Highly recommend. You all know a teacher, obviously, parents, tag them in the comments so that they can check this out. If nothing else, they should definitely head to that URL. We're a few minutes away from giving away another book. The way to enter to win the final book that we're going to be giving away today is by commenting along with the show. And then we are going to cap off the show by throughout the show, we're going to show you, but we're going to show you where you can actually buy this book. And I can tell from the comments, everyone is very, very excited and very into this story. I think I don't know. Do you guys have thoughts on why it is so appealing to youth to explore Greek mythology? Because it does just seem like a really resonant topic.
It's everywhere. We went to the bookstore. I mean, I'm not going to say that we went to the bookstore the day that our book came out, but we went to the bookstore the day it came out. We totally did. And we were amazed at there's mythology everywhere. Like Greek mythology maybe it's having a moment, but I would like to think that it's always been a moment. I mean, when I was a kid, I played Dungeons and Dragons, but I didn't tell anybody because, I was that nerd chic thing wasn't chic then. And now everybody's very into fantasy. The Lord of the Rings came back. Everybody has embraced that as part of our collective, I guess, growth for a lot of the parents, like our age and younger that actually grew up with fantasy. So I think there's a huge fantasy element to that. I think, of course, the books by Rick Riordan, the Percy Jackson series, obviously that helps bring it more into the mainstream. But I think Greek mythology has always been in the mainstream. It's just been maybe down a current lower, and now it just keeps coming back up to the top on occasion.
Yeah, it's so much in the mainstream that a lot of the names that you guys have said, we know those names, Hercules, or I'm saying it wrong, but there's names like that have become a part of, our culture, right? That we know these names from movies and stories and books and comic books and things like that. And some of the expressions also. So this is what I would like to do, guys. I'm going to say an expression that I know exists, and I want you guys to tell me where that comes from. We're going to put you on the spot here.
All right.
Jillian, the expression Achilles heel.
Well, that's an easy one. That comes from Achilles, and the story goes that his mother, Thetis, was trying to make him immortal because she was a sea nymph. She was immortal, but Achilles' father was a mortal man. And so she dipped him in the river Styx, which is that famous river in the underworld. And if you swim in there, you are immortal. But he was a baby, couldn't swim. So she had to hold him by his heel and dipped him all the way in. And when she took him out, he was more or less immortal. And she figured, okay, well, this is good enough. I mean, who cares if just this much of his heel is exposed? But lo and behold, that ended up being his downfall. And that's where the phrase Achilles heel or weak spot comes from.
Yeah, and I hear that phrase. I mean, people say that phrase all the time. I bet most of the time without really realizing it, what it means. Kenny, I've also another phrase you hear a lot, Pandora's box. To open Pandora's box is a phrase.
Yeah, well,
what's that all about?
Well, Pandora obviously was one of she was created by Zeus as a way to distract the two Prometheus and Epimetheus. Jill, did I get that right? Did I say, okay, Prometheus and Epimetheus, the two titans that actually created all of the living things on Earth. Epimetheus got to make all of the cool animals, and Prometheus was left with nothing else. So he made man, and Zeus created Pandora. He made woman to kind of distract him. And this will tell you how the Greeks kind of thought about male-female relationships at the time. And Zeus gave Pandora this, and here's the ironic thing. It wasn't a box. It was a jar. We talk about this in the book. It was a jar. And he said, whatever you do, don't open it. And her one trait that Zeus gave her that no one else had, no other humans had, was curiosity. And she just couldn't leave it alone. She was like, what's in this jar? What's in this jar? So she opens it, and everything that is every negative emotion, fear, anger, resentment, all these things were in this box or jar, and they all flowed out into the world all over all of humanity. And she wasn't able to keep any of it. She wasn't able to get any of it back in the jar. The only thing that she managed to save was hope. That was the last thing that she managed to save, and she managed to hold on to that. And she made sure that hope was also shared with all of the human beings in all of the mortal world. Very
interesting. I've got one for myself, and then I've also got one for Gina. Herculean task. I'll take that one, guys. No big deal. That's a task that is really challenging and really difficult. You need someone like Hercules to do it. Did I get it right?
Yeah, absolutely.
No,
Gina, I'm sure you'll have no problem getting yours right, Gina.
Heraclean.
Heraclean. Yes, thank you. Gina, do you have any idea where the expression caught between a rock and a hard place comes from?
Ooh, is it the guy holding Earth? I don't know.
Honestly, I have no idea. I'm hoping one of our special guests to tell us.
That's a hard one. You want to tell him, Kenny?
I think it is. Well, there's Sisyphus who pushes the rock up the hill. He gets punished, and then it comes back down, and he has to push it back up again, and it comes back down. He gets punished. That's a Zeus punishment. And you have to remember that that's what the gods did to punish each other, because they were immortal. So you couldn't kill any of your enemies. So you basically just sentence them to a really bad punishment forever.
But it comes up a lot. People pushing it feels like I'm just pushing a rock up the hill, But that's different than this expression.
Yeah, it's a no-win scenario. Oh, look, there they are. Yeah. And the Herculean task, we should mention, Hercules does have 12 labors. He's given 12 almost impossible tasks by Hera. And this king that this mortal king that she is sort of whispering in his ear, literally, and he has to do all these 12 tasks to gain his deity status back, and they are everything from he winds up holding up the world from Atlas for a little while,
right? Yep.
Yeah, right. To he has to clean out he basically has to scoop a whole lot of poop from a stable full of like 1,000 horses. I mean, that's literally one of his tasks. It's not pleasant.
I feel like we could talk about this for a long time, and I really hope that we get to have you guys back on the show, because I love it, and I totally agree with you, Kenny. Like, I don't really think that this fascination with Greek mythology is new. I can even think back, like, in the summers when I'd have required reading, and sometimes there'd be, like, some Greek mythology passages. I did that first, and I loved it, and everything else felt like drudgery to me. So I'm so glad you guys are out there creating this content for, I'm going to say kids, but it's really for all of us, because I think I'm going to be reading this book. We do have another book to give away right now.
Let's do it.
Okay, this one is going to Gentle Heart. Gentle, keep your eyes on your inbox. I'll be messaging you. Yay! Very, very fun.
They said their boys would love this book. Gentle, you're welcome.
Nice.
Yeah, we're only sending you one, so you will have to get another.
You may have to pay for any extra copies. Hey, Gina, can I point out one more thing that we haven't quite really discussed? We kind of mentioned it earlier. As a reminder, everybody, there is an excerpt, of this book that appears in the current issue of Scout Life magazine. And thank you for showing that, Brian, because I want to point out the illustrations. You guys mentioned this a second earlier, how cool this book looks. When I was a kid, one of my friends had a Greek myths, like a dictionary, and it was basically black and white. It looked like an encyclopedia, and I liked it, but it was hard to read. This is the opposite of that. Were you guys involved in the illustrations, or tell us about that?
Yeah, we can't really take any credit for the illustrations.
Javier.
That's why, our illustrator, Javier Espia, this is all his work, and it's phenomenal. I mean, when we saw it, our jaws just dropped. We were like, whoa. And it was crazy, because we basically just sent him, the manuscript, and then he drew these drawings, just matched in tone and character. It really just felt like a seamless transition, and they're just beautiful. Kenny likes it so much, he's going to get it tattooed on his arm. So
I'm going to get
the highest praise.
Yeah. I mean, we have the book is an extension of the podcast, and the podcast has a very conversational, relaxed tone, very straight up storytelling tone. And Javier captured that just perfectly. It's playful, but there's still exciting And it's kind of a blend between like graphic novel and comic book. He sort of straddles that line. It's really, really exceptional stuff. I could not have been more thrilled. And that's when it really seemed real to me and Jillian that we'd written a book. When we were able to see these illustrations, we're like, it's a thing. It's a thing.
Yeah, it was
really
very,
wonderful.
very cool.
And
Well, I would say
through it in the
congratulations,
video we showed
guys.
at the top of the show. Maybe we could roll out today's show with. Oh,
Sorry, Gina,
Go
you
ahead,
froze
Aaron.
up for a second again. I just wanted to say congratulations to our two guests. What a cool accomplishment! You wrote a book. That's exciting. You have the podcast. Anything else we need to let our viewers know about this wonderful thing that we're releasing to the world?
Well, we are working on another book. I can't tell too much, but this is only going to be the start of Greeking Out. There will be more Greeking Out. I can't give you too much details, but if you are a Percy Jackson fan, you will love the second Greeking Out book. I'm just going to leave it at that.
oh, that just means we can have you guys back.
Yep.
Yes.
that means you're coming back on our show 100% when it comes out. Let us know.
You got it.
Awesome.
Guys, just
Thank
to
you.
remind everybody out there, there is an educator's guide that you can check out about related to Greeking Out. There is also a link that we have up on screen right now where you can purchase the book. It's quite a great deal. I know a lot of you guys are already thinking about the holidays, so be sure to check out go.scoutlife.org/buy Greeking Out and snag a copy. Also, if you want a little preview, check out the October issue of Scout Life so you can read an excerpt of the book. Thank you guys so much for being on the show. We definitely learned a lot.
It was so great to be here. Thank you guys so much for talking mythology. We would love to come back anytime.
Yes,
Book or no.
thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you all for watching. Congratulations to our winners. And for those of you who didn't win, hey, as we just said, you can go buy your own copy. It'll be definitely worth it. Again, thanks to our guests. We'll see everybody next time. Bye, everybody. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.